Welcome students. Now in the last video session we discussed regarding saprotrophic mode of nutrition and the example was fungus. Okay, I forgot to tell one thing in that video, that how fungal spores or how fungus reproduce. Okay, fungi gets transferred from one place to another place by means of spores. Okay, by means of spores. Spores are nothing but reproductive bodies. When they will fall on a wet or moist environment, they might germinate there. Okay, so fungus reproduce by that mechanism. Okay, understood? Now we will move towards a mode of relationship, we can say, or the kind of living that is called as symbiosis. Okay, now what exactly is symbiosis? Don't get confused by the name, that it is not a huge process or it is not a tough process. Okay, it is a simple process. Symbiosis means, for example, if an organism is not being able to produce food on themselves, then what that organism will do? That organism will help another organism, and in turn he will take nutrients from that organism. Getting it? If not understood, let us again discuss an example. For example, school pays me to give knowledge to you. You pay school to gain the knowledge. So we are in a symbiotic association. I give knowledge to you, that is, you get knowledge, I get paid. Okay, as simple as that. So this relationship is called as symbiotic relationship, or the relationship is called as symbiosis. We have to study the relationship in case of plants. यही relationship का example हमको study करना है plants के case में. Then now see what happens. For example, a fungus, a species of fungus that cannot produce food, lives inside the root nodules, lives inside the roots of some plant, takes carbohydrate produced by the plant from the roots, and in turn helps that organism in certain ways, protects that organism from getting spoiled or protects that organism from certain mechanisms. Okay, so it provides protection to the plant and takes food from the plant. Both are benefited. So in symbiosis, both the interacting species gets benefited. Understood this topic? Okay, so symbiosis, now a relationship in which an organism, both the interacting organisms are getting benefited, is known as symbiosis. Okay, now again we will study one example, and the example is of lichen. Okay, lichen means a slimy green patches which are appearing on the rocks are lichens. What is lichens? It is a combination of fungus plus algae. Okay, it is a combination of algae plus fungus. What algae does? Fungus cannot produce food, but algae can produce food. Okay, so here in case of lichens, algae plays the role of food production by the process of photosynthesis, whereas fungus provides protection to the organism. Getting it? Lichen is an best example of symbiotic relationship, because algae and fungus, both of them are living together as a lichen. Algae is performing the process of food production, whereas fungus is protecting the lichen. So both species are getting benefited. This is getting food produced by algae, and algae in turn is being provided protection by the fungus. So this process is known as symbiotic process. Okay, so hope you have understood this process. Now the last point of the topic, in which again we have to discuss an example of symbiosis, that I will tell you now. Okay, that is the last portion now. It is how nutrients are replenished inside the soil. How nutrients are replenished in soil. First question should arise in your mind, that why nutrients need to be replenished. Nutrients को replenish करने की जरूरत क्या है, and what is the meaning of replenished? For example, gaining, if we have lost something, then gaining it again back is called as being replenished, getting replenished. Okay, and what here we are discussing about nutrients. Then how nutrients are going to be get replenished, and why there is need of replenishing nutrients. Okay, why there is need? Because in the soil plants are growing continuously after and after. In farming you have seen the farm is never left uncultivated. Okay, it is being continuously cultivated. In summer season different crops, in rainy season different, in winter different, continuous cultivation. There arises a need of replenishment. Replenishment means the soil now becomes deficient in nutrient, and there needs to be some mechanism so that soil becomes again rich in nutrients. And one of the mechanism that helps the soil or the nutrients to get replenished inside the soil is symbiosis. How we are going to study that? Okay, there is a species of bacteria, that is Rhizobium. Rhizobium is a bacteria that is being able to fix atmospheric nitrogen into its usable forms. Okay, understand the point. In our atmosphere there is most abundant gas present in our atmosphere is nitrogen, 72% or something, 78%. Okay, 78% of nitrogen is present in our surrounding air. Now if that much nitrogen is present, then plants, for producing proteins, plants also require to make proteins. This we have studied also in a previous video. One of the video I have discussed about that also. So the plants as requires nitrogen, there needs to something mechanism so that the atmospheric nitrogen can be taken up by the plants, and for that this Rhizobium bacteria works. What Rhizobium bacteria does? Rhizobium converts atmospheric nitrogen into its usable forms. Usable form means those forms which can be utilized by plant easily, because plants cannot directly take atmospheric nitrogen through the leaves or etc. There is no mechanism for taking direct nitrogen from the atmosphere, so it needs to be converted. And who is doing that job? Rhizobium. But Rhizobium requires food, it can produce food. Alright, it is a bacteria. So where it will live? So Rhizobium lives in root nodules of leguminous plants. Leguminous plants means peas, beans, okay, moong. So these are some leguminous plants, and in the root nodules, nodule means a bulgy portion of the root, outward growing portion of the root. So in the root nodules of leguminous plants, this Rhizobium lives. It is getting shelter, plus what the root nodule is getting, what the roots are getting, they are getting usable form of nitrogen. Getting it? So this relationship is also called as symbiosis. But what is the advantage of this process? That the nitrogen which is actually less inside the soil is being replenished. See, understand the sequence. From atmosphere, nitrogen will be converted into usable form by Rhizobium. Then plants through the roots will absorb the nitrogen, usable form of nitrogen, utilize it to make proteins. Then again same thing goes on. Then the proteins are made, then the proteins being eaten up by the animals. After death of the animals, protein again given back to the soil, then inside the soil again taken up by the roots. Getting it? So this continuous nitrogen cycle goes on, due to which the nutrients are replenished in the soil. And this symbiosis process is very helpful in the process of replenishing the nutrients. Understood? So what advantage this process is serving? If nutrients are replenished, then there is no need of nitrogenous fertilizers like urea. Fertilizers are having advantages, but still it is having more disadvantages. Pollution, then toxic level, Okay, so these terms are there. So that is why there needs no fertilizer if Rhizobium bacteria comes in the root nodules of leguminous plants. Understanding? So this is the process of symbiosis. Okay, so hope you have understood these two topics, that is symbiosis and how nutrients are replenished. Okay, now what we learned in this chapter is modes of nutrition, what is autotroph, what is heterotroph, what is importance of nutrients, what is saprotrophic mode of nutrition. Then we learned regarding a host parasite relationship in Cuscuta. Then we learned regarding insectivorous plants. Then we moved towards the fungus, then lichens, that is the symbiosis relationship. At last we ended at the topic of nutrients, how being reabsorbed. Okay, so this unit now here is concluded. In this unit we discussed the points as we discussed now. Okay, so now this unit is over. In the next class, if you have any difficulty, you can ask in the interactive session, and in the next class we will discuss the exercise of this unit. All right, thank you.